My name is Ina Irby. I was part of a cult. There we go. And now I will read this, and those who know I was part of a cult, there we go. Anybody else? They need to. March 13th. So I'm doing March 13th. Once we adopt a positive mind, positive things will always happen. This belief, like all the other illusions peddled in this culture, encourages people to flee from reality when reality is frightening or depressing. The gimmick of visualizing what we want and believing we can achieve it is no different from praying to a God or Jesus, who we are told wants to make us wealthy and successful. Empire of Illusion, 119, Chris Hedges, born 1956. Many relate to arriving at our first meetings emotionally bankrupt. We come to grips with our insanity and move away from absolute despair by changing our lives through the 12 steps or other recovery regimes. So, what is the other side of the coin of despair? Is it the new us, glossy-eyed, giddy, and buzzed on positive expectation? We think not. Dreaming about winning the lottery or yearning for all our troubles to be gone makes us easy prey for gimmicks. You can change your life books and seminars feed on the gullible. A fool and their money are soon parted. Subterfuge takes small truths full of integrity and extrapolates them into a seductive language that is vaguely familiar. Then, a franchise is made out of our own wishful thinking, preying on our naivete. The small print says that if we don't get the wealth or relationships we're visualizing, it's our fault. Any request for evidence is treated as subversion and met with cliched ridicule. Thoughtful intercourse is suspect. Mindless group speak is safe. Now, that's getting with the program, but the program turns out to be a scam. Addicts are susceptible to magical thinking and the promise of utopia. Being positive is a good idea, but not at the expense of the rich life that mindful inquiry and being at peace with reality will afford. The crazier our world gets, the more law of attraction, snake oil will be peddled as a cure for what ails us. Being motivated by positive psychology to take us to the next level is one thing. Flight from reality to stave off despair is quite another. How do I defend myself today with the lure of quick fixes or the easier, softer way? So, I have to say, The Secret, remember? I don't know if that's been buzzing around. I never had seen the movie The Secret. And then recently my husband pulled it up and we started looking at it. And I like how it says magical thinking. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we always thought, oh, the new world, and oh, how beautiful it's all going to be, and how the dead will come back to life. And, it was very magical thinking. So, the cliched, it says, any request for evidence is treated as subversion and met with cliched ridicule. Addicts are susceptible to magical thinking and the promise of utopia. And as Jehovah's, for me personally, I feel I was addicted to, emotionally, to this group of people. And, they hype up everything about the future. But really, when it comes down to it, and if you really sit with somebody on an individual basis and you start asking questions like, well, where are we going to get the wood for our house? Who is going to be the one picking up the dead bodies other than the birds? How are we not going to get trauma from that, right? Oh, well, Jehovah will make it all better and he'll, just, it's really deep questions that you start asking individuals. Well, if I married 5 times, how many, do I get all 5 men, right? Or do you get all 5 women back? And who's going to be the one that you're going to live with? Or is it going to be like a big harem of women or men that you're with? It just goes on and on and on. So, but you ask the question and then people get upset with you for being too detailed. They don't want you to ask the detailed questions. It bothers me too when being positive is a good idea, but not at the expense of the rich life that mindful inquiry and being at peace with reality will afford. Now, certain people in my life always tell me, well, don't be so negative. And yeah, I err on the negative side. I don't mean to, I just do now. And when it comes to groups or thinking or how it works, right? I want science. I want science to base my thoughts on. And I did find an individual that kind of explained how certain particles are split apart, and then holograms, if you cut it all up and you have a hologram, a 3D hologram, it used to be a bookmark, and you cut it all up. I'll put it down on the description. You cut it all up, you get this hologram, and it's all the same hologram in just little pieces, right? So how our bodies can, well, not exactly, but how particles can be able to be taken apart and each are having a reaction. It's very scientifically explained. So, like I said, I err on the negative, and it takes me a lot to I don't mean to, but when it comes to, and I'll be honest with you, when it comes to elders and when they go into different groups and they start making their own group, I have a problem with that. I'll be quite honest with you. It's frustrating to me. And I know that errs on the negative, right? And I should be more positive of that individual. But I just have a problem. I have a problem with them all of a sudden becoming like a savior instead of, okay, well, cop to the fact that you were right with everybody else, saying things to people who just were people who made people choices different from a group think. And I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time being positive about elders who have left. And granted, they are showing that they're different now, right? But anytime I see a person that had been an elder in a position, and they go back into a position of authority somehow, kind of talking down to everybody, not like talking down to everybody, but talking to people like, okay, here I am. I know this all happened, but I stayed in because I wanted to help people. And now I'm out, and it's just, I don't know. And they still want to help people. They're doing a good thing. It's just hard for me. It's hard, right? That's where I have a problem. And I do believe, we have to have, there's a point in life where you have to have radical acceptance, and being positive is a good idea, right? But being realistic, it's right under addicts are susceptible to magical thinking and the promise of utopia. Being positive is a good idea, but not at the expense of the rich life that mindful inquiry and being at peace with reality will afford, right? Being at peace with reality. Like for me, being at peace with death, because I got a chance to be a caregiver, I got to see how the body breaks it down. And because of that, it gave me peace that I hadn't ever gotten before. before I would try and stay away from someone who was dying that were Jehovah's Witnesses. I just couldn't handle the fact that they were going to die. And then I was going to see them in the new world. So I don't want to see them suffering. I'll see them when they're not suffering anymore. My reality is that I have to accept reality. All I know on this side of where I am right now is that people die. Peaceful. So to see someone who die, regardless, like I said, if they were suffering, it was still peaceful. And people were at peace with what they were seeing because they were seeing a family member die. And I like this. Flight from reality to stave off despair is quite another matter. So I'll read this. Being motivated by positive psychology to take us to the next level is one thing. Flight from reality to stave off despair is quite another. And I think that's what I did when I saw people dying, my father-in-law being one of them. I mean, I had an opportunity to be there throughout time, stay there with my child, but I couldn't. Now, mind you, I was a first-time mom. It was hard, you know, it was hard. She was about 2.5 when it was all happening, and it was just hard for me. And there were other circumstances as well. I wasn't close to my friends that I was normally. I had to move to a different county altogether in the middle of the desert. And that's where my mother-in-law happened to be. My father-in-law was dying, and the desert was something I was not used to. I'm used to city life in Orange County, close to the ocean. And to drive anywhere was rough in the desert. I just wasn't used to it. So when he was dying, it was hard for me. It was hard for me to see him suffer. And I, as a Jehovah's Witness, cut off death. I didn't want to see death because I thought I was going to see life in a different form, in a paradise where it would look in a beautiful place. So to see suffering was hard. And that's where flight from reality to stave off despair is quite another matter. So accepting reality, right? And even now, with those who have this in The Secret, it explains, one man says, well, if something bad happened to you, then you have to wonder, what did you do to allow that? And I thought, now he at one time was homeless. And I thought, well, wait a minute, you know, sometimes we're just not in a good mental frame of mind. And that's not my fault. I mean, it is what it is. Our brains get affected by the things that we hear, by the things that we see, by the things that we experienced. So for us, I've heard people that have religious trauma go on psychedelics so that they can get a lot of that, whatever has been deeply embedded in the mind and the body, to release that. Now, I don't know if I can do something like that. I don't know if I want to. I have a lot of drugs that I already take. My brain is, I feel, on overload because it already takes drugs to just be able to relax and not make me all shake everywhere. And so, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to understand everything, right? It's hard to understand everything about the mind and how it works. I don't know. The gimmick of visualizing what we want and believing we can achieve it is no different from praying to a God or Jesus who we are told wants to make us wealthy and successful. So I sit with that, right? I really think about that. And now, because I've learned from a scientific point of view that there is a possibility that you could, you can think differently and it can change your life. But for me, I think about that saying and I think, but I always am half full, half empty, right? I'm always a half empty girl. That's what I always feel that I am. I try to be positive, but it's hard, right? It's hard. I can't work right now. I'm looking for a job and I want something that I can still help people, right? I still want to be in a position where I'm helping people, right? This helps me. Doing this makes me feel good and it heals me. And so in that way, I'm very grateful to do this. And I'm grateful that you're here because you are helping me. I don't know who you are. We don't talk. I can't see you, but you're here and that heals me. So in that way, I think I know that visualizing does help, because I remember sitting during COVID and thinking, I have to do something. I want to do something to help people. I wasn't going out in service anymore. So I thought, okay, well, let's do something different. And of course, I would love to. There's other things that come from helping people, right? And to be able to continue to do this and maybe other things and still get money, that would be great. But it doesn't always work that way, and that's okay. But like it says, dreaming about winning the lottery or yearning for all our troubles to be gone makes us easy prey for gimmicks. And do you know how many times I've actually visualized being in the lottery or winning the lottery and it hasn't happened? Is it because I'm negative? Too negative? I want you to win the lottery. I bet you want to win the lottery too, right? And so, yeah, I think in a lot of ways, this is how I feel when it comes to winning the lottery. I already did. I've been saved numerous times by my husband. I have been able to be born. I've been able to see the rise. I got to be in an opportunity to be in a cult and see how it worked, to see behind the scenes and know that what I saw, I knew didn't, when people left or when I was actually there, I saw things that were strange, but I was emotionally connected. So I didn't connect everything. And I feel like I won the lottery when I found a man who had lived many years ago here in the United States, and his name was Mr. Frederick Douglass. And if I hadn't picked up that book, I would never understand slavery and the many forms that it takes. So in that way, I won the lottery. So, maybe we don't win monetarily. It doesn't mean we're what? The law of attraction, right? That we're not attracting things that are good for us. It just might mean that we're we're people with brains that are affected in different ways. And, like it says, I want to be able to really be in reality. And sometimes magical thinking can happen again by just for us as survivors of a cult. So I'm careful, right? I'm careful, and we should be. I mean, we've already been through a lot. it's hard. I feel like, yeah, I want to be positive, and yeah, I want to win the lottery, and yeah, I want wonderful things to happen to you and to me after we've been through so much. And then, you know, shit happens. And is it our fault? No, I don't think so. It just happens. So, and we know in the Bible, unforeseen occurrences befall us all. What are you going to do? So anyway, like I said, thank you for being here, because you heal me. And I feel like I won the lottery. I wish I could have really won the lottery. And I would love to win the lottery. I'm not gonna complain if that happens, right? Positive thinking. Yeah, great. And I want you to win the lottery too. And I think in a way, if we think about it, we did. We're out. We won the lottery of life. We have an opportunity, a second chance. Or my case, I don't know. I think I have like, I feel like what a cat with 9 lives. I've had numerous occasions where I've almost died. And fortunately, you know, I've had a lot of lifesavers along the way. That one of them being my husband. He's helped me get out of a cult. He's helped me get out of a cult. He gave me the red flag 20 years ago. And he bought me a car that I, of course, you know, negatively complained about, but it saved my life. Anyway, yeah, I thought this was interesting because, I don't know. I'm going to put down the individual that talks about the hologram and explaining scientifically how the particles are. He said it much better than I do. I'll put it down in my description. You can find it on YouTube. I thought it was interesting. So, yeah. On that note, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I hope your families are doing wonderfully. I hope you're safe mentally and emotionally. And I hope that you're thriving as a human being. And thank you for being here, because you heal me. You might not know me, but I'm grateful for you. So, follow your bliss and be good humans.